Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Stompin Tom fan page on Facebook, as well as my Facebook group and YouTube channel, Canadian Music in the 80s and 90s A. Don't forget the A part. Um, I am very privileged to have Tim Hadley with me today. Tim played with Tom you played stand-up bass with Tom for how many years?
13 years. Yeah, I started in 2001 and I played with Tom right up until he passed.
And how did you get started playing with Tom?
Well, boy, there's a long story. I came up in the late 70s, early 80s, and we really, like, if you're interested in music from that period, like, I came at it from a DIY punk rock background,
Right.
and I played a lot in the punk scene around Ottawa in those days, and then, like everybody else, we knew we had to move to Toronto if we wanted to make it. So I moved to Toronto in the early '80s, and I spent years just pounding the pavement, auditioning for every band that I could possibly try to find, and looking for the right people to play with, and I finally met up with the people, Charlie Angus and Peter Gillard from the Grievous Angels. And I went to a practice with them. I was playing stand up by that point, and they were looking for a stand up bass player. And I went to a rehearsal with them, and this would have been in 1987. And I took my bass on the bus and the subway, to get there. And it was kind of we sat around, we had some songs. Charlie had some songs that he'd written, and we played those. Some of them we're still playing to this day. And then he played Sudbury Saturday Night, and he played Bud the Spud, and a couple songs like that. And I thought, well, this is really fun, but we're going to go and play the punk bars down on Queen Street in Toronto. I don't think we're going to be able to really play those songs. And Charlie was like, no, of course we are. He's from Timmins, Ontario himself.
Mhm.
Um, and he knew of Tom from his family when he was growing up. They had the CKGB singles. I think Charlie still has a copy of Fire Down in the Mine.
Right.
So okay, well, we can try it or whatever. So we went again. We started playing these bars down on Queen Street in Toronto. And the funny thing to me was that the punks just got it. They understood.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they heard that music, maybe from their parents or their grand. It certainly wasn't music that played on the radio, but I knew it myself. Like when I was a kid, we lived in Bramalea, and I remember seeing Tom's truck drive around Bramalea, and the Carlton Show Band lived there and stuff like that. But it wasn't like you'd ever hear that music on the radio. My dad, he was a big country music fan. We'd listen to a lot of that music on the radio and stuff. But anyway, the punks just embraced it. It was their music. They absolutely knew it and they loved it. So when we recorded our first album, I think it was late '87 or maybe the beginning of '88. We recorded the Gumboot Cloggeroo, and it was a cassette in those days. We
Right.
didn't have enough money to put out vinyl, and CDs hadn't been invented yet. So we put it in an envelope and we mailed it to Tom. And the great thing about Tom, and anybody that has had any contact with him will tell you, Tom wrote back to every single person that wrote to him. He was just such a magnanimous man, and he was retired by that point. He was out of the music business, and nobody really knew where he was. He was like, this thing in the ether that we all looked up to, because Tom was the first indie guy. He started it, selling his own records, recording his own records, selling them out of the
Right.
back of the van. That's what we've done, ever since I was 16 or 17. It was the same thing. Well, you get in the van and you go and play, right? So we sent him a copy of our cassette. It was all queued up to our version of the Gumboot Cloggeroo, and he wrote us a letter back, and we thought, oh my goodness, it was like hearing from, I don't know, outer space or something. And I remember the letter. Charlie still has it, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, boys, for recording my song on your cassette there." He said, "You played it way too fast, and you got all the words wrong. But if you keep going, I think you'll do okay, right?" And so we took that as a sign that we were kind of blessed. So I played with I still play with the Grievous Angels. We've been together for over 35 years now, but it came to a point in the early late 90s, early 2000s when Charlie had moved back up to Northern Ontario, and I had moved to Eastern Ontario to work as a school teacher. And we weren't playing together as often as we used to anymore.
Right.
But we sort of still kept in touch, and I have a good friend, Mr. Steve Fruitman, who is a folk DJ on the University of Toronto radio station,
Right.
CIUT. He's got a show there. In the old days, his show was called The Great North Wind. Then he did Back to the Sugar Camp, and now his show is 334578. Does an all vinyl radio show. But Tom would listen to his radio show because he knew that Steve played the kind of country music that Tom really liked, that he couldn't hear anywhere else on the radio.
Right.
And so they had kept in contact. Tom did his first interview when he was thinking of coming back with Steve on the radio. And it wasn't an interview about Tom. It was an interview about Stevedore Steve, who Steve Fruitman is a very, very big fan of Steve Foote, Stevedore Steve. And we actually went on a little field trip. Steve took me down to St. John's to St. John to meet him just a few months before he passed away. It was the most amazing thing in the world, because he and Tom had traveled, when they were kids. And so anyway, getting off track. But anyway, it turned out Tom was looking for a bass player, and he asked Steve. He said, I need a bass player and a steel player. Do you know anybody? And Steve called me up, and he said, hey, I just want to know what your plans are this summer. Like, would you like to go on tour? You're going to go all across Canada, and you're going to make some money and this and that. And I was thinking, like, wow, that's kind of weird. He left an answer. It was on my answering machine, and I got this message, and I was like, oh, well, that sounds interesting. Like, Steve, who is it with? Because it can't be you. We've never made. I've played with Steve for years. We'll never make any money. And he called me back, left a message, said, no, it's with Stompin Tom. And I guess he kept the tape, because I called him back and I said, well, Steve, I'd love to do it, but if you're joking with me, I'm going to come to Toronto and I'm going to have to strangle you or something, because that's a bad thing. I talked to my family about it. I had a young son at the time, and it was a lot to go away. I think the first tour was 7 to 10 weeks or something like that in the summer. And being a school teacher, I had the summer off, but it was a big thing to leave my family in the summer. But a couple days later, I got a call from Tom, and of course I knew it was him right away when I got the phone call. It was that voice. It's pretty unmistakable when you hear it on the phone. And he said, like, asked if I was interested in going on the road. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I said, Tom, like, would you like me to come down and do an audition for you? Or, this was on a Monday night that he called me up. Would you like me to come? Do you want to hear some stuff I've done? He said, we're going in the studio on Wednesday. Be at my house at 6:30. So he told me how to get to his house, and I went down and I met, I think, the band at the time. In those days, Tyler Burgess was playing drums, and I forget who else was on that session. But we met at his house, and we just sort of sat around and just talked for a little while. We didn't really rehearse or anything. I don't even know if we got our instruments out. We had a beer or something like that. And he's like, okay, well, let's go to the studio. So we went to the studio, and we recorded a song. So the first song I think we recorded was the Erica Nortby song, Canada's Child. It was a single that he put out because it had just been in the news and everything like that. And I guess that was my audition. I guess I passed it because I played with him. I played with him ever since, really.
Wow, that's a long time. And you said 13 years you were on.
Yeah, 13 years. So we made I don't know, 3 or 4 records, and I was on the DVD that he did. And yeah, I just we got to see Canada from coast to coast to coast, and it was so nice to see it with Tom, because his memory went back so far,
Right.
in terms of the history of Canada. Like, the interesting thing about Tom to me was, he was born into a pretty sort of cosmopolitan circle, and he had been traveling around with his mother to all these big cities. And then
Mhm.
when he was taken away and put in the orphanage for a couple of years, that was pretty bad. But then it was like they took him back in time. It was like the Anna Green Gables story, because he went back in time when he went up to Skinner's Pond. He said, there was no cars there. He said, there was just, they were in the one room schoolhouse, and it was so different from what he was used to, because they would travel with his mother up to,
Right.
they had a circle, Montreal, and they go to St. John, and they go to Halifax, and they go all around, and it was really a cosmopolitan life. And then he went back and lived on the farm until he finally, got a bit tired and sort of ran away. And yeah, just all the stories, to be able to hear that and see some of the places that he talked about in his books, and just talked about and stuff.
Did you ever go up to Skinner's Pond with him?
Um, Yeah, did we go to Skinner's Pond? We played in Prince Edward Island.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not sure if we went up. I think he went to Skinner's Pond maybe the year before I joined him. And
Okay.
they might have done a show up there in 2000. I can't remember.
Would that have
Um,
been when they named the road after him up there?
maybe.
I know he played up there when they had the road named after him and they had a big
Yeah, maybe.
event up there.
Yeah, but we played Charlottetown, and we played Summerside, and like we did a East Coast tour. He'd do one year we'd go to the East Coast, the next year we'd go out west, and then the next year we'd do Ontario, and that was sort of his thing. So every 3 years we sort of hit one part of the country.
And were you on the last tour that he ever did? I have a
Yes.
poster on the wall actually of if you see that where I'm
Yeah,
pointing, that's
yeah.
from the last tour.
And from like all the shows, or was it one in particular?
Yeah, it was just a tour. Like all the cities he played on the last tour.
Yeah.
And you were in the band for the last tour, right?
Yes, I was. That was a fantastic band. Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
So
Yeah,
who was
Mickey
in?
Andrews played on that.
Oh
Billy
yeah,
McGuinness was in that, and yeah, it was just Mark LaForme was there. Al Widmeyer it was a fantastic band.
it was a whole group of veterans that played with Tom on that tour by the sounds
Well,
of
it
it.
was so nice to be able to play with Mickey Andrews, because Mickey went back to the very beginning with Tom, and I think Tom always felt he felt a very special bond with Mickey.
Right.
Those guys had seen a lot of stuff since the late '60s, early '70s. So it was so nice to hear that sound. To look over and see Mickey Andrews playing steel was amazing.
Well, he used to play with him at the Horseshoe back in the early days,
Yeah,
did he
the
not?
good, bad, and the ugly.
And you're no stranger to the Horseshoe yourself in a different era.
Well,
With
I guess, yeah, we've been pretty lucky. I just played there last Sunday, so that was kind of nice. I did a little matinee with the Grievous Angels with Charlie Angus. We're getting some songs together. We're gonna record in early July and stuff. So we did that, and one of the local bands that I play with here, Haley and the Pirate Queens, played as well. So that was really good.
Oh, it sounds like it would have been a good time. I was there a few weeks ago and did a little tour around the Horseshoe.
Nice.
It's on my YouTube channel. I'll have to send you a link to it. You might get
Yeah,
a kick out
please.
of it.
Yeah, I'd love to see
It's
that.
yeah, there's been some great musicians that have come through the Horseshoe, that's for sure. And it's nice to see that big mural of Stompin Tom and Gord Downey up at the front by the stage now. It's kind of appropriate if you think about it.
Yeah, I know, Tom had his sort of mixed feelings about the Horseshoe, because he always felt that it wasn't the Horseshoe that he played at. Once
Yeah.
Star wasn't there anymore, he sort of thought that it was a different bar. And I know, a number of people approached him to go back, and boy, I would have loved to play the Horseshoe with Tom, but he wasn't having it.
Let's go to I want to talk a bit more about your career. If you don't mind, could you go back and tell me when you first got interested in music, like as more than just a fan, but wanted to play?
Well,
Like,
I think it was the same thing, and I mean, I hate to say it, but it was television, and it was the Beatles, and
Right.
the only reason it was because my brothers, who are older than I am, were said to me, oh, be quiet, we have to watch this. And it was the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And
Right.
I sort of was like, oh well, like why is this important? And we always had music in the house, because like I said, they were older, they were bringing records home. And I grew up wanting to be in the Monkees, and I wanted to be Danny Bonaducci and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just remember being a kid and pestering my poor parents for guitar lessons for years and years and years before they finally relented. And I was really fortunate in that I came up in the time when a certain kind of rock was going out, and the new DIY stuff was coming in, and it was music that anybody could play, anybody could do. You could write and play your own music. Anybody could do it, and that's what I did. So like I said, I grew up really.
Mhm.
I went to punk rock university, and did that. And I was really, really fortunate to meet the people that I did, because through Charlie and Peter, through Peter Gillard, I played in a band called the Cajun Ramblers. We did Cajun and
Mhm.
Acadian music. We became the Black Fly, so we did a lot of French Canadian music. I played with a band with Jason Collette and Andrew Cash called Lazy Grace, that was sort of this
Okay.
outlaw gospel band. So there was a while there when I was playing quite a bit in Toronto, with a bunch of different bands. But then life happens, and I moved to Eastern Ontario to get a job. And it's sort of like I was all set to retire and raise a family, and not play music anymore. But it's kind of one of those things where you can't stop. So I was
Right.
lucky living out here to meet some people. And I thought, well, Charlie's in the House of Commons, he's not really playing music as much, but he's written so many just amazing songs, just fantastic songs. It's a shame if nobody sings them. So that was the point where I went from
Mhm.
being a bass player to being a guitar player. And we started the band I play with, Bad Tractor, that I sing and play guitar with. We started out as we were sort of a Grievous Angels cover band, or a Charlie Angus tribute band, and stuff like that. And we've sort of morphed now, because now a lot of the musicians I work with, are now part of the Grievous Angels as well. So
Right.
we have a bunch of different musicians that live in the Quinte area, that we've all sort of banded together,
Okay.
and we started our own record label, and we're putting out some records of our own stuff. And then with that, just seeing Tom and how he wrote songs, and seeing Charlie and how he wrote songs, and seeing Jason Collette and how he was writing songs, and Andrew Cash, and all these great. I've been really fortunate to play with some amazing songwriters,
Yeah.
and it's inspired me a little bit to put my pen to paper and write some songs. And I have a good collaborator, my friend Ian McKendry, who I write with, and he's also a very talented artist. So he does all our art, and sort of runs the record label for us. So
So
yeah.
is Charlie still in politics, or is he not doing that
Yep, he's
anymore?
the
Oh,
he's
he
the
is.
MP for Timmins, James Bay. And he was he went in. I think I joined Tom just around the same time that he went into the House of Commons, and he's been there ever since. So it's fortunate. So he, because he comes down and works in Ottawa, and then
Yeah.
maybe one weekend a month, he'll come down to our little clubhouse here, and just north of Belleville, and we spend a weekend rehearsing and writing songs and stuff. And Peter will train up from Beamsville, and then yeah, we have our rhythm section guitarist and pianist who all live in this area here. So
I'll never forget when Tom passed away, that I saw a clip on the news of Charlie and Andrew Cash, because he was an MP at the time,
yes,
playing
yeah,
Bud the Spud in the
yeah,
foyer of the House of
yeah,
Commons. Like, I thought
yeah,
that was really something to see too.
yes, yeah,
Legendary musicians who both played the horseshoe many times, I'm sure, over
yeah,
their careers
yeah.
too.
Yeah.
to do a tribute like that to Tom at the House of Commons. I thought that was really nice to see.
Yeah, well, it was great. Like I said, Charlie from Northern Ontario, and also I think recognized that Tom was really a champion of the working man,
Yeah,
and we've always, I mean, when we played the Horseshoe on Sunday, we played three Tom songs. I think we did Tilsonburg, and we did Fire in the Mine, which is a good one because Charlie's from Timmins, and so that's
right.
a song about the 1964 fire in the Hollinger mine, the McIntyre mine, and we did. I guess we did the Gumboot. So going back to our first album, still playing it after all these years. We're still playing it way too fast, and I don't think you ever learn the proper words, but you know.
You got to put your own spin on it, right?
That's right. That's right. Tom would approve. Well, maybe he would.
What were some of your favorite Tom songs to play? Like, you played with him for 13 years. You must have played quite a wide variety of his catalog.
The great thing about Tom, and just being able to stand back there night after night, just because I was off to his left, he was on my right, and Tom really liked the bass. He said, as long as you and I are here, we could do the whole show. He didn't really listen to anything else. He just wanted to have that beat going so that he knew where he was. But I just to watch him get into the characters that he sang, like um,
Mhm.
honest to goodness, every time he played Luke's guitar, he became Luke. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It was
yeah,
unbelievable. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. And depending on where we'd go in the country, there was always a special song that he would play, that he would
right.
bring out. And sometimes those would go really well, and he would decide, oh well, we're going to keep that in. So the first time I think we went out west with Billy, we played the Zakuska polka, and Billy is such an amazing fiddle player. I think Tom recognized that. Oh well, this is
Yeah,
a feature for Bill. We're gonna have to keep this in, and that was always fun to play. Red River Jane, or just some of those songs that really that I enjoyed, that really kicked. Because I saw in Tom, I just the spirit of punk. But it was funny because when you talk to him about it, it was hard for him to understand just what that was. He didn't.
right.
He was really, if it wasn't somebody named Hank, like Hank Snow or Hank Lachlan, or Hank Thompson, or like he really really liked that era of country music. And I
Yeah,
started saying, well, gee, Tom, the first time I heard I'm Moving On, it was the Rolling Stones live album, Got Live If You Want It. I'm not even sure he knew who the Rolling
yeah,
Stones were or whatever. You know what I mean? We had a few good discussions about that. But that was my PhD in traditional country music, was
right.
going with Tom, because some nights we'd be in, we get to Hinton, Alberta, and what are we going to do? Oh, let's have a Hank night, boys. So we'd
Yeah,
all go into the motel room. We'd get our instruments out of the truck, and we just play anything by Hank. So he'd play, like he loved Hank Williams, and he loved the music of Hank Snow, and he liked Hank Lachlan and Hank Thompson. And I never knew there were so many Hanks, really, to tell you the
yeah,
truth. But I learned about them in all the songs. And when you think of Burl Ives as in the Christmas movie, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and then to
right.
hear like Itty Bitty Tear and all those songs. And Tom knew thousands and thousands of songs. He could sit down, and he was still 13 years later, he'd play a song that I was like, man, I never heard that before. Like, where did you get that from? Oh, that's you know, just an amazing person, great guitar player. We really a
Right.
good picker and stuff like that. And yeah, we had such a learning opportunity.
Well, I remember when I was a kid, we had these two 8 tracks sitting around, and it was Tom doing all traditional country songs from back in the old days, like the 30s and 40s. It was all like
Yeah.
old time favorites that he grew up
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
And it was literally recorded with just a bass player, him and his foot.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was just, who records like that back then? Like, I mean, more people are doing it nowadays because it seems to be a good way to do it. But back then it was unheard of, but these are all, I remember hearing all these songs for the first time because of him.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then hearing the originals and going, oh, okay, those were not
Yeah.
his songs originally, but
Yeah.
I heard of so many of those old classic songs. Like I think he did a lot of Wilf Carter songs.
Yes, he sure
Um,
did. Yeah, and he loved yodeling and stuff. When we were would go into the studio, and I remember the last time we went in, and I had just put I had a plywood K bass that's from the 40s, and I put gut strings on it, and I thought,
right,
well, I'll take my bass that I'm using, but I'll also take this other one in just to see. And as soon as I pulled it out and started playing those gut strings, he was like, that's the sound. That's the bass I want. Get rid of that
right.
metal strings. I don't want to hear those at all. He really was looking to go back to the sound that he grew up with in the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. He really loved that a lot. And yeah, it made me appreciate it a lot more.
He always had us. I mean, I saw him. I don't remember the first time I saw him. I was 4 years old. I actually saw him at the Peterborough Memorial Center
Nice.
when I was just a little kid. But the last few times I saw him, I always knew he always had a strong backup band with him. Like in, you yourself, and obviously Billy plays the fiddle. And I know he plays a lot more than the fiddle. He's quite a guitar player himself
Oh, is
too.
he ever? Yeah.
And the other guys you had backing you up. I mean, Mark LaForme was no slouch in the guitar
Oh, yeah.
either.
Mark was such
Um,
a pleasure to play with.
yeah, and he was a veteran too. He toured with Tom
Yeah.
for a long time too. But
I think that album that they made together, Move Along, I think that's one of my favorite Tom albums ever. I think that album is incredible.
what are some of your favorite songs of Tom's that weren't necessarily the hits, I guess, that weren't like the Bud the Spuds, or maybe not as well known as those kind of songs?
Yeah, well, again, those songs like "Fire in the Mine," I think is just a
Right,
fantastic song because it's a piece of very accurate historical writing,
right.
and I would say, and I asked him about this once, but I really love the poetry in Moon Man Newfie. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? No, like
yeah,
I'm serious. I'm like, Tom, like where did that come from? Like that is so different from any other song that you wrote, and the imagery in there is just so beautiful.
right.
And yeah, Tom, he didn't really want to tell me or whatever, but
Yeah,
there's certain things that he'll do that'll just surprise you with their, like poetic genius really is what it is, right? And it's a funny song, right? All the songs
right,
there, they sort of like they meant to put a smile on your face, but there's something if you go a little bit deeper, and
right.
you really try to figure out what Codfish Dan was doing way up there in the Milky Way. It's like, think about it. Yeah.
But I also thought, with all the humorous songs that he wrote, I also thought he could really put his mind into writing a pretty good serious song once in a while, like a good,
Yeah,
deep song. Like I Am the Wind is a good example. Like, I mean,
that's right.
what beautiful
Yeah.
poetry that the lyrics are for that song. But I
And
remember
that, and
hearing
that,
a song called If a Memory Was a Melody.
oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
What a beautiful piece of music that is. Like,
Yes.
it's just
Yeah.
beautiful lyrics. It's well recorded, and he could do a lot more than just write humorous kind of
Yeah.
songs like that.
Yeah, and I know I Am the Wind was a song that he was very close to because I think he really put his own personal philosophy deep in that song. Like I think that's Tom really telling you who he is. There's no artifice there or anything. I think it's a real, yeah, deep song.
Now, you got to play at the memorial in Peterborough, which
Yeah,
I attended myself.
nice.
How was that in terms of, kind of a closure to your time with Tom?
Well, I mean, it was a nightmare, like we sort of knew that Tom hadn't been feeling very well
Mhm.
and stuff, but nothing official or whatever. And I remember we were going to go again. My friend Steve Fruitman and I were going to go and visit him in November, and they was sort of like, oh, well, maybe this isn't the best weekend to come down. And we thought, oh, that's kind of weird. I hope everything's okay. And I remember calling Tom on his birthday, because I called him on his birthday every year, just to wish him happy birthday. And I
Right.
talked to him that was the last time I spoke to him. And then, you know, it wasn't very long after that you know, I heard it on the CBC that he passed away, and it was pretty devastating, you know. And then to be asked to be part of that whole thing was really something, you know. And Tom had planned it all out in advance. He knew
Mhm.
exactly what he wanted, you know. So we went and we were the pallbearers, and we played on the stage. And you know, they had some incredible acts that were there that got up and played. And you know,
Right.
you know, I got to play with Sylvia Tyson, and you know, different people like that. And JP Cormier was there. And yeah, just all kinds of people. Dave Bedini, you know, Dave Bedini, sort of from the Rio Statics, came up at the same time as the Grievous Angels were coming up, you know. And Bedini was always a huge fan of Tom's. Like, he's the one that snuck
Right.
into Tom's 50th birthday party, and you know,
Yeah.
just tried to talk him into coming back, and stuff like that, right? They always played a lot of Tom's songs as well, which is you know, kind of cool. So, you know, and Billy was there, and you know, Lena and Tommy. And yeah, it was, you know, it was very emotionally you know, wrought time, I must say. Yeah.
No, it was you got that was pretty much a reunion of the last band that toured with him, wasn't it? Was it not?
Yeah, but Tim Huss was there as well, which was
Okay.
really nice that Tim was there, because I don't know if you saw any of the tours that Tim did, but there were a couple, you know, tours before the last tour.
Mhm.
But Tom was like, you know, he was like, you know, you people should listen to Tim Huss. He's really good. I'm passing the torch on to him, and stuff like that. And so it was good that Tim was down there as well. And yeah, Billy did the Maritime Waltz. And there was a lot of things in there. And there were things that Tom wanted, that he, you know, asked specifically for, and stuff like that. So yeah, to be know that he asked me to be part of it was just you know, it's a huge honor.
Do you still keep in touch with any of the guys?
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely. Yeah, I talk to Billy quite often. And we've done some playing together since. Billy's recorded on a couple of our albums and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And I'm going to play with Billy this summer at the Stompin Tom Center. He's invited me to play with himself and Leon Gallant on
Oh, great.
August 26th. So I'm really looking forward to that. To, you know, one, because the last couple of years has been really hard to travel.
Right.
I wanted to go. I wanted to get to the East Coast last summer, but gas was too expensive. I couldn't afford it. So this summer I'm going, whether I can afford it or not.
Well, I hope to get up there and see that show, that because I live here in Charlottetown. I'm
Yeah,
hoping to
yeah,
get up
yeah,
and see that show for sure.
yeah. That would be great. That would be lovely.
Which gets me to my next question. What other kind of trouble you get into this summer in terms of playing and recording, maybe? And
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, the Grievous Angels are going to record. I forget whether this is going to be our eighth or our ninth album this summer.
Mhm.
And in the past, you know, because you know, the pandemic was so hard, what a lot of people did when they couldn't play was write music. So you know, Ian, my partner in Bad Tractor, and I, you know, we had a couple of long canoe trips where we'd go, and we'd write music. And then we recorded an album that's just again, because everything is backed up because of the pandemic, is just in the mastering stages. And then
Mhm.
it's going to be made, and that'll be our second album. Our first album is called Blessington, and it's on all the streaming services and things like that. There's also a limited edition vinyl that you can get.
Okay.
You know, our website, or Instagram, Facebook. We're on all those things. Bad Tractor Band. And then with my partner Haley Austin, Haley and the Pirate Queens. Again, the same thing. Haley wrote a song cycle really
Mhm.
13 short sort of punky songs. We have a little trio with Nathan Mahaffey on drums and myself on bass, and then Haley plays guitar and sings, and she's an incredible guitarist and amazing singer. There's some again on all the social media sites. Her album might even end up coming out a little bit before the Bad Tractor album, because I think she got a little bit of a head start. And we do have a double side 45 that's coming out. Bad Tractor is going to be on one side, the
Okay.
Pirate Queens are on the other. We just got the test pressing about a week ago and gave it go ahead, and so we'll have a little mini vinyl before our real albums come out. So that's going to be fun, and yeah, hopefully we have a good summer of you know, playing a lot of gigs, going to Wolf Island on Friday, and then
Mhm.
yeah, not sure what else is going on, but there's going to be some local gigs around the Quinte area, down around Prince Edward County, not Prince Edward Island, but the county, and
Mhm.
yeah, so hopefully we'll be busy playing music.
It's really good to see you're still playing music and still keeping busy doing it and doing what you love.
Yeah, well, like I said, I've tried a couple times to retire, and it just seems a little bit impossible. I couldn't really sit around. I think I'd get a bit bored. So I'm lucky that I have such talented people to play with. You know, really lucky.
Awesome. It'd be good to, I can't wait to see you down here this summer. It's going to be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it's gonna
Here
be
you go.
fun.
Because I've seen Billy and Leon together, and you're just going to add so much to their performance, especially when you guys start ripping into the Stompin Tom catalog.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, it's always fun to play with Liana and Billy. Like, I love those guys. You know, they're a PEI institution. You know, they played the Stanley Bridge Hall twice a week for, you know, ever since I can remember. You know, and I got to play with them once at Stanley Bridge, and that was just a huge, you know, it was so wonderful. And yeah, hopefully Haley's going to be able to come. She's coming down with me, so
Right.
hopefully we'll be able to do a couple little house concerts on the way down. I think that we might end up somewhere in Sackville, New Brunswick, and a couple other places, and play some of our music on the way down.
Oh, that's all. Have you been to the Stompin Tom Center yet?
But
The new,
I was down a few years ago. Again, we came down, and it must be, oh yeah, 5 years ago. I think they were just building it. They were.
okay.
I was down when it was the schoolhouse, and
Okay.
I was down when it was falling a little bit into disrepair,
Right.
and that was sad. But I haven't been there since it's been reopened. So I'm really looking forward to that. I know Billy's played there a number of times, and he said
Yeah.
it's fantastic. He said it's really fantastic.
It's a really great thing to have for the memory of Tom. And I think you're going to really love it because obviously you obviously got to know Tom very well touring with him 13 years. That's for sure. So I think you're really going to enjoy seeing what it's turned into.
Well, there's something about up west, and I can't explain it, but I know Tom talked about it a lot, and just going up there to the North Cape and to Tignish and to Nail Pond and Skinner's
Yeah.
Pond and all those places, it just seems like you're going to another part of the world. But it's, I don't know what it is, but I just feel this deep connection to that place. And I know we have some friends that live up there that have a place. Last time I was up, we camped out there for about
Mhm.
4 nights, and it was in August, and the meteor showers were going on, and we just walked along the shore, and there's something very magical about being up there. That's just yeah, I can't even describe how wonderful it is. It's like no other place that I've ever been to, but as soon as I got there, I immediately felt a really strong connection to it.
Just because of the music Tom wrote about it too, I guess that must
I
hit.
guess, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Wow. I really can't thank you enough for joining me, Tim. I've been dying to get an interview with you for a while. And
Yeah,
I
well,
remember
thanks for reaching out. I really appreciate it.
Billy's told me to get an interview with you for a while. And I've been, yeah, it'd be perfect. So
Yeah.
Billy's good
Yeah.
at hooking stuff up like that.
He
So
sure is. Billy's great.
yeah.
I love Billy. It was so good that just, that he came into the band when he did. And he was such an amazing addition to what we did. We just, the band got better as soon as Billy joined. And any band I've ever played with, as soon as he picks up his fiddle or his guitar or even playing the piano, it's just the music gets better.
I've seen him play with so many different musicians, and I don't think there's anyone he can't fit in with.
That's right.
Like he
Yeah.
just gets right in there and he brings what he does and he makes it a, he can fit in with anybody he plays with.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, looking forward to, like I said, we asked him to record a track on the new Bad Tractor album that's coming out, and he played on. We did a Ron Hines song, "Ironworking Man," which was a
Oh, great.
unrecorded Ron Hines song that he wrote for a play back in the '80s on the Last Grievous Angel album, and Billy played on that, and he did such an amazing job. And he had a connection with Ron himself, so that was really good. And I'd love to get him. I'd love to get him out for a Pirate Queens gig. I think that would be really fun.
Well, it's good to see you guys still butt chumming around and doing stuff
Yeah,
together.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Again, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate you doing this so much.
Oh no,
Um,
my pleasure, my pleasure.
have a great summer. I hope to see you here on the island. I'm
Yeah,
hoping to get up to that show for sure and meet you again in person. I talked to you off camera, so I've met you a couple of times already, but
yes, yeah. Well, maybe we can, if you can't make it up, maybe we'll be able to stop off in Charlottetown and just hang out for a bit. I think that would be lovely.
that'd be fantastic. Thanks a lot, Tim. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
All
right,
right. Thank
bye.
you. Bye-bye.